Hari Om. I'm Geetha Sankaran Lam. I am the Artistic Director and Principal of Geetha Sankaran Dance Performing Arts Studio. I have studied dance for nearly 40 years.
Once from the I have part.
Okay,
Okay.
I have studied dance from the age of 10, and it's almost been more than 40 years that I've been in this field of being known as a performer, dancer, and tutor, and now influencer in my field. I studied Bharatanatyam initially with the famous Krishna Kumari teacher, a graduate of the Kalakshetra Dance Academy, and I was invited to join Padma Shri Dato Ramli Ibrahim's school, Sutra Dance Theatre, to study Odissi. All these happened in my teens, and somehow the label of being an Odissi dancer remained with me for the rest of my years. I got married and I was invited to teach Odissi at the Temple of Fine Arts and raised my young son with my husband for the next 20 years, becoming the Odissi head of department. This entire career of mine has been a journey which has given me a lot of joy and blessings and shown me the interesting aspects of being a performing artist and someone who can actually incorporate many beautiful things in life. And I am actually quite honored to be known as a performing artist, a Malaysian-born, Malaysian-trained performing artist, and my love and my gratitude to Spiritual Mother India for her gifts to us. Well, the journey that I would say that has colored my mind looking back is almost like the seasons of the yugas. It's interesting as I think about this question that the idea of innocence when I first started learning dance, of a very beautiful art form of Bharatanatyam, the greatest, most wondrous form of expression, a classical form of Bharatanatyam for us South Indians, has now over the years manifested into something that I see it's seasonal because its effect has changed my whole life and my thinking process. So what I trained in as a strict discipline has now transcended and also transformed as something that is being catered for a new generation in this age of social media and also the modern world. I never imagined that it would, but I suppose that's what's happened. From a traditional upbringing, it has almost become something that is making me think about the world and the issues at hand. So that's the story of how it's impacted my life, and what is the innovation that's changed me is how dance and performing arts has impacted a greater part of my psyche. The gurus that have definitely the legends of India for a young student like me, impressionable at an impressionable age, the magazines of Illustrated Weekly and the videos that came through uncles who knew that I was interested definitely had an impact on my upbringing and the manner in which I approached dance. Plus also the Indian movies that came on TV, on television. I found that I was enhancing my knowledge by watching the Tamil movies and picking out dance sequences, and I would try them out besides the regular weekly classes. So imagine these tools that enhanced my own learning were my gurus. So besides a teacher, these were tools that were available for me to make and help me develop my interest further. Okay, I feel that when I was born into a spiritual family. So spirituality was already part of the DNA, where meditating, chanting, singing a bhajan, sitting at the altar to pray was all part of my first motivational aspect of life growing up in a home. And that was community service because it was an ashram. My home was an ashram. We had a guru, we had a spiritual guru. So the idea of taking up an ancient dance form or Bharatanatyam or Odissi was so associated because of the ideology that my father had, like pretty much the science of the Vedas. All these were positive ways of uplifting the human psyche, is to appreciate, is to see the worth in the civilizations that have come and the evolution of man. So these were the principles that I was raised on, is yoga. The yoga idea of self-awareness, self-reflection, self-contemplation was already a childhood inspiration. So with that everyday thought, it was not something that I saw differently when I started learning dance. It was already a practice in the home. And so the idea of yoga and nritya, so it became nritya yoga for me. Everything I danced became a self-turned meditation for me. And that was very special, and I think that is a quality that I return back to even till today. So the traditional form of the Gurukulam, when the Guru imparts the knowledge, is by strict discipline and following the set patterns or the set syllabus that's given, and I'm one of them that was trained that way. So having done it for almost 30 odd years, I began to find that it had to be rethought, it had to be considered for a new generation that wasn't living the lives we lived. It was a new era which children were a little bit more sensitive, they were a little bit more touchy, they were a little bit more, I wouldn't say weaker, they were different from us. So the manner in which I learned, I had to rethink and innovate. Maybe if we call it innovate or innovation, it was to incorporate theatre, incorporate storytelling, and incorporate a new way to make them feel that if they're away from India, they've never seen anything about India or lived in India, how would somebody actually approach Indian classical dance when most of Indian classical dance is about the way of life, how Indians had lived? At least for me, the stories that my father or uncles told me was an imprint in my mind, and I read books and I saw pictures. But for my students, it's completely different. So I had to work harder to find ways to make them bridge that connection. And so it was challenging. When we are taught the traditional Gurukulam way, we are taught the hands or the kai, line by line, and we just sit to study and we learn about the different aspects of dance, storytelling mainly, from gestural dance to using it and the storytelling. In those days, it was verbatim only for the syllabus. With the traditional training, I had to look at, after my marriage to a non-Indian, to see the need to also incorporate stories that were relatable for the Malays and the Chinese and the other races, so that we could share the commonality about the human struggle. So which means that we looked at texts and the different types of interesting stories that had moral values, that had something messages, and incorporated that into the fold of the dance choreography. So in a way, that would be moving out of that typical zone of using the Alaripu or the Jatiswaram or the Pallavis or the Mangalacharan. You'll have to work harder to find music to also link it to what you want to tell in your dance choreography. So those are things that I feel that I made slight changes, and also within the limited scope of a particular choreography, I always wanted to tell the story of the raga, and I tried to study and research and innovated the Sai Baba or the Naika or the Nayaka's interpretation and related it to what the general meaning would be, so that the third part of the Rasanubhava is felt, and that would be a complete performance. So in terms of innovation, I think it's not anything definitely new, but what I had to do was, because of the generations that were coming to me, I was mostly drawn to the troubles that they were going through. So I was always thinking about how can I make it less complex and removed, because Indian classical dance is removed. We feel that it's a dance of the divine, so that already sets a boundary for the student, sets the boundary for the audience, and I was always trying to bring that wall down. So that, in terms of innovation for me, is how to make me as the dancer teach my students to always be the human first and the human forever in their performance. Indian classical dance training, like all dance forms, requires complete dedication and devotion, and it is tough. But which field is not tough? I can say this very clearly. If you want to study to be a doctor or an engineer, it's the years that you spend in indulging yourself in that passion. So dance is not different, except that it's a physical activity, different from a musician who has his tool. But for us, the tool is the body. Yes, it is hours of work to polish this tool to become the sound vibration, to become the message, to become the paintbrush, to become everything, so that an audience sees what is the intent of the composition or the poem. So knowing that this was required of my field, I worked nothing less than 4 to 6 hours a day. It had to be a dedication, and for me that became, but I wasn't tormenting myself, I wasn't torturing myself. I knew I loved it, and I designed my practice so that it will always be a spiritual offering to my guru or my deity or my goddess or Krishna. It was that way. If I looked at it that way, then it was a sweet offering every time I rehearsed. The only thing is, when people looked at us, they would say, oh my God, it must be very difficult, it must be so hard. But it's not, in my opinion, because it's something I like. So it is the dedication in which I wanted to do, and therefore it is a sacrifice away from the usual life that everyone gets to have, which is the weekends with family and the self-time that you take to do other things. You don't have that sometimes, because I call it, you have the studio or the artistic jail. It's a prison where you have to lock yourself out. Body, mind, soul completely has to divorce itself from anything that's going to disturb you, and you have to completely focus on the subject matter and another character, and not have anyone else in your head, because then you become a pure vessel to actually tell the story. So this was a challenge that we take hours to practice. In terms of being affected by how people saw that I was away longer at the practices and not being with them, I didn't make too much of it in my younger days, because I only had time to focus on what I needed to deliver for my art form and my teacher. That's all that it mattered. And I think because I was in a family that was loved, so whenever my family members saw us and they saw me appear, they would say, you have come, finally you have come. So it felt very nice when I was received very beautifully, and we had very good relationships. So we were not, I was not a snooty person. I was always down to earth, and I would make friends, and I loved everybody I met. So that wasn't a problem, except that their notion was, because they didn't know what we were doing in a studio, therefore they misunderstood. How can someone be so passionate about their dance form? It's just a dance class and it's just dance. But that's the point I took this field of performing arts, was to make anybody who misunderstood realize how it is very similar to what you do at your normal day at work or your pursuing of your studies. Nothing different, except you are choosing it because there is a pressure for you to earn an income, to raise a family. For us, It's not that. It is to hone a skill, to be calm, to bring this to society, to uplift society. So our focus is different. Dance is divine, dance is beautiful. So our mind is not given that pressure in the early age. It's either health, wellness, or do it beautifully. If only when we want to take it up as a career, then we are given the point of this advice that's given to a regular human being. How are you going to manage? How are you going to make it? You must be so good at it. Therefore, somebody will look at you, how is a girl going to manage? So the difference is, it's all from ignorance. We are afraid of something that we don't know. So I worked at making this my craft, and this craft has to tell its story about not hate or anger or revenge or envy. It's about peace. The challenges are to convince people. But what are my other challenges that I faced in the field is, while I took this up as my serious practice, the regular life that's around me through friends or family, when you lose them. At the time when I was working on a very big project, I had to bid farewell to my father, but little did I know he was going to pass away. When I got news that I was away doing a production, my father had passed away. It was only a white butterfly that came to sit with me. But then my father's advice to me is seva and complete your service. So I completed my service and I finished every part of my duty before I came back to see his body. And of course, it was emotional, but I was focused because the dance training always taught us a value. When you have given your best, Krishna says, when you have given your entire best, and that is the flower of your offering, even your pitrus will be raised. And so I felt that's what I was raised by my parents, is that do your seva well, do your focus, it's for you, and we will all be, guarded and taken care of. So when I saw him and I was conducting the funeral, I was guided by Swamiji to say, all is good, all is well. You are doing your part and he has gone on to his mission. So you will meet at a certain point. You can meet in dreams, you can meet in meditation, you can meet in your dance sequence. The point of the production was on Buddha. Buddha's message to the great Emperor Ashoka of transformation from being a warmonger, war-hungry warrior and a king, a ruler, how he was brought to his knees to do completely change everything, and give peace to the world. So there is a message there at that point when I was doing the production to think about these things, about what is it that's the conflict. So those are the challenges I had, to cry or not to cry, and to look at my father. Of course, I missed my father very much. And the other one is when your children are sick and you have to go to do performances. Oh my God, it's heart-wrenching. How do I leave my children? And people always say things, oh, his mother is dancing all the time. She's not concerned about her husband or her children. But they didn't see that I had done all my work. I had cooked and I had taken care of all the children's stuff and then set out. So it is more work that I have put in for the home, and then still headed out to focus, to choreograph, to dance, and get all myself organized. So people don't see that, but they are willing to say something. And it didn't matter to me because it's my seva, it's my life. Third challenge was when my husband had pneumothorax and he had to be operated in Serdang. I had to leave him there and I told him, okay, my care for you is done, the doctor's done a wonderful job, but now I have to go and dance. So I headed to the Ratha Yatra in Brickfields, bare feet, and I actually put out my hands to Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, and beseeched him with grace for mercy and said, thank you for saving my husband's life, and this is all I can offer you. So my whole service as a dancer is to beseech and to pray. So that, through the challenges, as tears were, just rolling out of my eyes, it's how beautiful life is. And people can misunderstand that. Husband in the hospital and the wife is dancing away. But for me, it didn't matter because this is integrated. It's prayer. And there he is giving me permission to say, you do what you need to do, I'm fine. And then the other one is, the last one is when my body broke down. During menopause, we fail to understand what happens to us. Whether you're the best dancer in the world, everyone has to go through the nature of life's turns, and parts of me started slowing down or not working. Injuries started happening. And I cannot imagine that this thought came to me, my life is over. Thoughts came. But very quickly, the positive that I have built over the years, the bonuses, overcame me. And with the support of my husband and my children and friends, I sought help for many things in treatment. But then again, I had to learn through the challenges. I looked at paraplegic patients and senior citizens and people who didn't have hands and legs and lower body. They moved and they lived. So I started training myself differently. I started learning their dance. How without legs people would still move, how without hands they can still move, how if they have to use one leg. So it was a compassionate turn for me to still not give up on dance. That dance is actually showing me a mirror reflection that there is much more out there that is victorious and living and surviving. Yours is not the only struggle, but learn from it and rise. So I continue to live that way. So even I've had the worst challenges in life, but I've still managed to overcome them. Oh, I every time someone reminds me the years have passed and I have taught so many, especially when I sit in an auditorium and I hear the word Odyssey and my name is mentioned, and I think about it and I said, aren't I lucky that I had this beautiful gift from my parents, that is, nothing belongs to us, everything belongs to some form of force that's passing the knowledge. So you should just keep passing the light. And because I believed in it, I kept teaching anybody who came to me who wanted to learn. I didn't stop myself from giving them the best and everything I knew. So that every time I sit in the auditorium and someone says, Odyssey, Guru is Srimathi Geetha Sankaran Lam, I just go, thank you God. Thank you to my teachers. Thank you to my parents. It's a humbling feeling, because you're not doing anything to expect all these results. The challenge is to teach someone. But how did 40 years pass and you've already, if I were to calculate, it's almost 20,000 students all over have studied Odyssey. But you've planted trees in different places and the trees are blossoming or they're growing on their own, or they've found their own shades, or other trees, they've passed on the seeds. So in a way, it's a sense of gratitude that I feel the work that I have done. I think if you ask any student, they will say, Geetha teacher is strict, no nonsense person, because that's how much you require to hold and nurture these art forms. You have to study it with so much patience and interest, and that bhakti you have to have towards your guru. You have to love your guru in order to gain the grace to study. But the point of giving them is something that I always share, is never forget where you came from, the kindergarten days, and have intent, because it's your loving obligation to bring a smile and to bring peace. It has to be a beautiful journey, not a toxic one. So I think I always like to pass this message. Whatever we do, it's not to hurt. It's to bring reconciliation. Even through pain, it's reconciliation. So dance is powerful for us to always communicate this, and there's such a thing as forgiveness. We have to humble ourselves to say, I made a mistake, maybe I have to find ways to reconnect. And this field actually has the capacity to actually make us do that. And I think this is something I have passed on to my students. Advice to students is like, I think I always say the same thing: practice what you have gained, because practice is going to recharge your battery every day and make you return back to your younger self and reflect, and you grow. Because like nature, the sun rises, every little bit that's out there has to grow, wilt, die, grow, wilt, die. The seed has to be nurtured, and the sun is our source. So our sense of being is the moment we are awakened in the morning, we have to find who we are and what's our purpose. And the interesting thing is, I discovered we are not the same person as before, as yesterday. Today is a new day. We can actually find a new self, a new thought, a new way to live, and a refreshing purpose to do something better. What we couldn't do yesterday, we can actually try today. And that is the fascinating part, which I feel that's enriching me through the journey of dance now. So my advice to the young ones is, don't hold on so much to the past. When we say tradition, you are not being realistic about holding something so tight without opening the doors to say, who am I in this? What am I in this today? And what's the relevance of all that I've gained for the need of being in society today? So that's my advice. Look around you and look at yourself in the mirror and think about things and maybe decide, how is it relevant for you now? Oh, yes, I have danced many performances. This question is interesting because there's only one I love most, and it inspires me every day. In 2008, I did a production called Transcendence. We had just returned from Orissa, and I requested for Guru Durga Charan Ranbir to choreograph 5 pieces for my tutors and myself as the head of the Odissi department at the Temple of Fine Arts. And I had created works for all the students with the 5 items. But where my item was concerned, I took something very unique, which was challenging. I took a composition of Padma Vibhushan Guru Kelucharan Mohapatra, and the traditional work cannot be changed. That is the tradition. But I had great love in my heart, and I always believe that when you do great, simple things with great love, even the gods will bestow you with blessings. This as much as I know. So I took that work and I thought of doing something to give back to the gurus who have offered so much of their heart and love to us. So I reworked the whole piece with only love in my heart, thinking of Guruji, Guru Kelucharan Mohapatra, there's no more of course, and Swamiji, and my Guru, who I never met, Guru Deva Prasad Das, through Master Ramani Ibrahim, and put all these masters and also the female gurus who have been instrumental, the Maharis and the Devadasis who have all been instrumental. So I thought of her in that form and I reworked the whole piece. I worked so hard, 14 hours of practice a day, and I created the work. When I look at the work now, the dancer there is in perfect equilibrium of every sense of the word, in harmony with the universe. I don't see myself. I see the soul that I admire. That is the best performance that reminds me this birth. I achieved everything I wanted. Practice, dedication, obedience, study, reading. I did 3 turns in a Brahmari. I didn't huff and puff. I did all the stretches I wanted, all the poses I wanted. I moved in a solo as a soloist from this side to this side to this side to this side, and I watched myself intently. I wasn't actually struggling for breath. I had mastered breath. I was on top of the world like she was floating. And it is, for me, it is an inspiration on a not so great day, or when I want to remind myself what it takes to be the best and what can change, but that one will remain because the intent was so pure. I wanted to give back everything I have gained to the Masters and Mother Earth, that I don't need to hold it anymore. So for me, it is the best performance because the lotuses in that production, I made it almost 8 feet, and it was a winning production for the Beau Cameroonian for the set design. So I, as a dancer, was this small and the lotus was big. So which means that even in concept, I am nothing when compared to Mother Nature. So in this nothingness, if a spark throbs with beauty and joy and love and complete sacrifice, the whole universe dances in complete harmony. And when I look at it, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's what I feel I was born to do, and I want to achieve things like this. So it's my best today. I have nothing else, though I have done many things that people talk about and it's so wonderful. But for me, because it was sincerely from me, I have no thought about anybody else in it, and I freely did whatever I wanted. Everything I had learned, I put into use, and I had given it back. So I emptied my vessel, and I stood there. At the end, when I held her pose, I completely had tears in my eyes, and I just finished by owning nothing. Yes, I have, like I said, the point of the spiritual impetus from me from young is the goal for my birth. My birth, I've realized now, because at this age, the gurus have also given me dreams, and the vak, they say that the divine word has been spoken. Just before I undertook the studio, there was an oracle that came right in my path and just looked at me, and she finished saying whatever she needed to say for me from here in this chapter, maybe till where I need to go. So it felt like I'm on the right track to listen to divine guidance that comes from the sky, and always to use my heart. When I am meditating and I am dancing with joy, just the way I described just now about the performance in the pure sense, there is some force that's actually giving you the opening the doors for you to fulfill what's supposed to happen. So I think for me, I feel very content that my mind didn't rush out to look at other aspects, which is very easy in our field, to be envious of someone, to be jealous, to be feeling always lack, grumbling, complaining. Thank God I kept myself occupied with the more positive things. So which means that I'm saved in a way, though the temptations come to be grumbling about someone else who backstabbed you, the number of students, some school is doing more, they are doing more productions. These are all things on social media that disturb, distract and take us away. But luckily for me, I'm reminded about my goal and my purpose. My intent is a spiritual one. Why was I born, and why did dance come to me so naturally? Why has it remained with me for so long, and what is its end with me? So now the question here is, how am I going to end my story, and what will be my last breath if dance was going to tell its story? So I'm only looking forward to that. So which means this is, dance is the victor, she is the wonder, she is the miracle. She has transformed my life. She has changed me from within. She has taught me patience. She's still teaching me patience. She is making me realize the colors of life. She is giving me the dramatics of everything, like the yugas, from not only peace, but to see the shades of human beings, and not to judge anybody, not to judge myself, but to learn that nature is a constantly changing process. You are constantly changing, but there is an end. Even at the end, when we go, as what my parents have come back to talk to me in dreams and vision, there is some more layers for us to go and transcend. So it never ends. It never ends. So what do we live looking forward to? I'm just thankful I have today. What miracle can I create from here? And just surrender. And let's surrender to a force that says, okay, you help me. I'm going to follow what I need, but I shall make my steps, write out my notes, practice my work, look at what I should do, help someone else perhaps, maybe put my books in account properly, audit it properly, look at the book balance, study and take care of my children, not neglect the duties and responsibilities, but see how arts and culture is valuable to us, because it's the only field that makes you humble to think about yourself, because it's always reflection. So no other field, I think, makes us think so much as if you're going to become a performing artist, you're constantly analyzing people, you're constantly analyzing yourself, you're constantly studying. And I like that because it is making me more aware of myself. So before I say anything, I should think about it. Before I react, I should understand. I should always be able to step into someone's shoes and then reflect, and then that also changes me. That's what a dancer's job is. So it has transformed me, it's transforming me, and hopefully, at the end of the day, when I have fulfilled what I need to do, the desire will disappear. And this is only this birth. It's so passionate and very strong, but it's getting thinner. It's getting like I want to just finish what I need to do, and it's getting quieter. So I feel a lot of peace. And this opportunity bestowed or provided, I feel very honored. And first and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank SUGAM Karnataka for this very gracious gesture for recognition. The recognition is applaudable for all artists who work very hard and dedicate themselves to imparting what they have learned. Time is so short on earth, but we are trying our best. So I feel great love for their work. Thank you so much. And I always, every time I start my work, I think about my gurus. There's not a day that I don't imagine them always with me. Their love and their care has brought me to this day. And there are so many teachers I have had, and they've all loved me. They loved my family, and they have taught me immensely. And everything that I have gained from them has been put into my training. So I'm grateful to them. My family, oh my God, my husband. Without my husband, I think the Stri in Geetha Sankaran wouldn't have attained the fact that I could put my head up high to say I am a Mrs., a dancer who married, has a child, but I can dance and be independent. So my gratitude to my husband, and of course my children, who I must say are the current gurus. They are the gurus, the new age gurus, who remind us if we made a mistake, how to quickly reflect back on the changing trends, how we need to adapt ours. So for me, my children are teaching me a new way to reflect, and that also has brought me to where I am today. Okay, so this current chapter at which Geetha Sankaran Lam is a very beautiful one. Being in my studio and having come through the pandemic and teaching in a park, teaching in a small place, renting out studios, doing work, I have finally found something that is meaningful for me, with everything that is meant to be, with space, with doors that open and close. How did I achieve this? I'm not sure. There must be some force that's guiding me. So with this new studio that I have in Desa Petaling, the work that I intend for is about discovering newer friends and discovering meaningful work that I would like to do for society, and that would uplift my spirit at this age of 56. I want to go closer to something that is beautiful for the heart and also humanity. I've always been thinking of being the ambassador of peace, global peace. How do I achieve it? Yes, I have achieved it. But now from here, for less wars or no wars within ourselves and also for others, for the children, how do we make the earth a better place? So I am working at collaboration this year, more collaboration, and trying to interact and bring the unit of family. Family in the sense of our own family, and also a dance family, and a neighborhood family, and also a community that will understand and support women, older women performing artists, and also how to bridge that connection to the rest. So we've all become slightly older, but we feel forgotten. And so I'm trying to understand, how does the change happen and what happened to our elders? Did we forget them? And how much more we can actually bridge this conversation. So my intent is one that is looking forward to finding new meaning in the fresh connections that we can do with traditional art forms into the growing trends of the today. So hopefully GSD Performing Arts Studio is a stepping stone to more conversations, roundtable talks, and integrative programs, community service, and also cultural exchanges between the young and the old. And I want people in different fields to engage the new generation, to tell them it's not so bad. Life can be tough, but the sweet moments are when we get together to be honest about our conversations. And that's my work now at this phase. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel very grateful and humbled. Thank you.